Bienvenidos, aquí Jesús Hoyos de CRM Latinoamérica con nuestro episodio que hago todos los viernes, Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos. Y hoy nos visita el señor Brando Contreras, Head of Latinoamérica SugarCRM. Yo a Brando lo conozco varios años atrás, de sus vidas anteriores en Add-on y luego Marketo, después Adobe y ahora pues SugarCRM. Y el disclaimer es que hoy vamos a hacer esto en Spanglish. Okay, well, let's see how that goes, you know, de ese punto de vista. Entonces, varios temitas para los primeros que nos están escuchando. Pues ya sabes, esto está live en LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter y en YouTube. Luego esto pues lo subo a Instagram y a mis podcasts de Spotify y Apple y todo eso. Y la idea aquí pues tener una conversación y hablar un poquito también de café. Antes que hablemos pues de que el tema hoy va a ser qué significa esto del CRM y el Marketing Automation trabajando en conjunto, ¿no? But to begin with this, Brandon, who are you, man? What do you do? Tell us a little about yourself.
Vamos a necesitar más de una hora para una conversación acerca de quién es Brandon.
Bueno, al final del día yo sé que tú eres maestro.
¿Quién soy yo?
Pero al final del día yo sé que tú eres maestro. Así que...
Pues en este momento ya empezó mi aventura aquí en SugarCRM. Estamos en fin de la semana número 4, right? De mi aventura. Pues antes de eso, 2 años con Adobe, 1 año con Marketo y muchos años con Act-on Software. ¿Qué más? Yo vivo muy cerca de Sacramento, California, norte de California. La ciudad se llama Rockland. Tengo un hijo que tiene 20 años de edad, que está en la universidad, y también un hijo que tiene 16 años, que está en la escuela secundaria, pero en este momento está en un torneo en Las Vegas de soccer, podemos decir fútbol, a nuestra audiencia. Y la audiencia que me conoce bien, voy a saber que I'm going to speak like como Homer Simpson, right? English, Spanish, inglés al español. Gracias por su paciencia, que las personas que están con nosotros en este momento. Thank you. Estoy casado y mi esposa está trabajando en este momento también. No estoy seguro si ella va a entrar y ella va a demandar
que vayas a limpiar los trastes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sí, por ahí veo también que tenías tu perro, ¿no? Y yo siempre tengo el disclaimer que siempre también tengo mis perros ladrando por ahí, ¿no? De ese lado.
Yes, ¿no?
2, yo también tengo 2.
Sí. El que se llama Dude. Diles, hola.
Súper. Mira, ¿y qué café tomas? ¿Tomas una taza al día, 20 al día, con leche?
Pues sí, café con más o menos un poco de leche de almond milk, right? Ajá. Muy importante.
Porque ya estamos viejitos, ¿no? Ya tenemos que tomar otro tipo de leche.
Porque quisiera decir que la leche regular tengo problemas con el estómago.
Sí, ya.
So, coffee with almond milk, que yo hago diario en un French press, muy importante. Y después de poner café en French press y, como sabemos, hot water, lo más importante, 8 minutos o más in French press. It's very, very important. And that is something that drives my family crazy. Like, how long has the coffee been in there? Because it needs to be in there at least 8 minutes. And I set the timer. Very important. You could Google search that if you want inside for the logistics and mechanics of French press. But yeah,
sí, bueno, no, esa es la idea. Me acuerdas, pues, mi gran amigo y socio José Corona de Solvis, que él también se lo toma muy específico, ¿no? Como lo quiere, ¿no? Y cada vez que va a cualquier Starbucks del mundo o cualquier otro sitio de coffee, lo pide y tiene que ser exacto con o sea, todo, ¿no? El foam y todo, ¿no? Pues mira, yo pues siendo puertorriqueño, pues yo estoy aquí tratando de promover pues los cafés de mi tierra, ¿no? Hoy me estoy tomando un café lareño, de un pueblo en Puerto Rico que se llama Lares. De ahí parte de mi familia, que está al oeste de Puerto Rico. Y yo pues me lo estoy tomando pues también en mi tacita de barra, café negro. Y esta es la taza número 20 que tengo del día.
Así tengo la taza de café número 3, casi el 4 del día.
Sí, y yo siempre...
La misma taza, ¿verdad? The same cup every day.
Sí, bueno, yo tengo esta taza que me la compré en Puerto Rico, que tiene aquí pues el sol taíno, que son de los indígenas en Puerto Rico. But I have another cup that my daughter gave me that has me in a plane, me mountain biking, me water rafting, me hiking, me sleeping, all the things todas las cosas que me gustan, ¿no? Entonces,
nice.
esa es la otra tacita que me la tomo, ¿no? Pero cada vez que yo voy a las conferencias, ¿no? Bueno, cuando iba a las conferencias, porque ya estos son virtuales, ¿no?
Yep.
Yo siempre procuro estar, me siento donde están al lado del café. Porque yo soy un heavy coffee drinker, ¿no? Desde ese punto de vista, ¿no? Inclusive, a mí me gusta también echarle azúcar, y a veces pues chiste es pues que me gusta mi azúcar con café, ¿no?
Yeah.
Eso es lo que digo, ¿no? Entonces quería por ahí, ¿no? Perfecto, pues, bueno, pues Brandon, qué bueno, pues estar aquí contigo, ¿no? Y hablar, de ese punto de vista, ¿no? La última vez que te hablé contigo también creo que fue, hace como un año, algo así, buscando precios de Marketo, ese tipo de cosas, ¿no?
Yes.
Y fíjate, pues, quería hablar justamente de esto de CRM y Marketing Automation, ¿no? Porque SugarCRM, pues también, pues, después que Oracle y Salesforce y otros empezaron a adquirir pues su Marketing Automation, pues yo pensé que en aquel tiempo Sugar iba a adquirir a Add-on, ¿no?
Yeah.
Y adquirieron pues ahora se me fue la memoria, el otro producto. Pero lo pusieron todos, o sea, como parte del mismo modelo de datos, el mismo ecosistema. Y fast forward, pues el año pasado, pues Sugar también adquirió esta empresa Node.io para traer todo este tema de inteligencia artificial dentro del CRM. O sea, cuando digo dentro del CRM, dentro del ecosistema de Sugar, ¿no? Bueno, y ustedes pues están muy enfocados y están bien clasificados pues con los Gartner y los Forrester en el mid-market, y es un producto, o sea, que tiene un buen reach en ese punto en Latinoamérica, ¿no? Y desde ese punto de vista, pues, o sea, el mercado ha evolucionado tanto, pues que ahora pues el Marketing Automation y el CRM pues ya es uno, they're together, they're coupled,
Yep.
O sea, todo está integrado. Cuéntame un poquito cómo tú ves esa evolución, porque, o sea, tú estabas en Marketo, viste eso en Adobe. Adobe no tiene un CRM, entiende que eso también es parte de las cosas que estamos viendo allá afuera. Pero también tienes otras plataformas como Lead Square, tienes ChartSpring y Active Campaign, inclusive ahora MailChimp, que ya tienen algo de CRM, ¿no? Zendesk, que tiene pues service con ventas, y eventualmente yo veo por ahí que a lo mejor hacen algo de CRM, perdón, de marketing. Y HubSpot, ¿no? HubSpot ya se movió al mundo de CRM, ¿no?
Right.
Entonces, how do you see all that coming together?
So, déjame explicar en inglés, because this is where my Homer Simpson brain goes, Espanol, Spanglish, etc. Right? And I appreciate you mentioning our past all the way to Act-On software. So I spent 7-ish, almost 8 years at Act-On software, and I came up through the sales ranks at Act-On software. And I remember at that time, one of the biggest, if not the best bullet point was, listen, we are CRM agnostic, right? We integrate with all of the usual suspects. Bring whatever CRM you want to the table. We will integrate. Some native, some more native than others. And that was, flashy, exotic, erotic back at that time. And to some extent it still is now, but bear with me. That was a big deal then. We would say CRM agnostic, también podemos decir CRM Switzerland, right? Like, hey, we don't really care. We're marketing automation. We're focused on marketing automation. Bring CRM. Okay, fine. And Marketo, to some extent, would flash that as well, right? Now I'm mentioning my time from Acton over to Marketo. Integration points, the usual suspects, the usual CRM, players in the game. Great, we'll integrate. But what we've all seen is, like you mentioned, a one-stop shop, right? Like a total and complete ecosystem inside that particular organization. Let me rewind again back to the Acton days. I remember, a little bit before HubSpot came out with, their base level CRM, awesome, incredible, like Acton, the scuttlebutt or otherwise about CRM, like some level of CRM inside connected to Acton software. Awesome, great. Now, of course, like you said, fast forward to where we are now, ecosystem. Pros and cons. I think as the technology has advanced to where we are now, there's not really many cons to it, right? Certainly the pros, the one-stop shop. You sign on with the likes of SugarCRM and some of the others that you mentioned, right? And you're now getting all of your intelligence, one global, if you will, as your organization is using it global, single source of truth with everything inside. You've got your marketing automation, your business intelligence, et cetera, all connected to CRM. So the client then, again, doesn't have to, I guess, worry, because we've been part of many a conversation where there's, a head scratcher to, we got this far with fill in the blank with the particular platform, and now we're having some issues with this integration point, or it's not speaking to this, or we're having issues here. And now with kind of a one-stop shop of ecosystem, a lot of that, dare I say, it does go away. So I don't know. That's stream of consciousness, but kind of addresses a couple points in, my experience, similar to what you've seen.
Yeah, and my point here is, one of the key elements, y para aquellos que me siguen en las redes sociales, I am very, very anti lead object. That lead object that sits between, the marketing automation and the CRM, because, back then, it was useful because, you have, if you follow the, rewinding back to the 90s and early, 2000s, we didn't have, the Facebooks and full-blown digital marketing, you're talking when Netscape and Yahoo, American Online, way back. And the CRM had this marketing module that was designed only to do telemarketing, telesales.
Yeah.
And to send emails, let's send emails, So, all of a sudden, then we have, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then we have Google and on all these digital platforms that came in. Now that we have some rich data, that you can capture, and then, you don't need to pass that contact as a lead. You can pass it as a contact and go directly into the opportunity. Why? Because you have already enough data, because the person is qualified or not qualified. Now, this is the problem that I have with the standalone marketing automation system and the design that, that legacy that we're bringing over to CRM. We have no way to identify to a marketing automation system out of the box if the person is already a customer or not. Because if we go in, oh, it's a lead, it has the same ID, we do a merge, because we think it's a lead, but it's not. The marketing automation system, and now with CRM working together, the lead object, goes away, because you're going to identify right away if the person is already a customer that has a new interest in another product, B2B, B2C, or direct to C, okay? Or if the person, when it comes in, is brand new in the company,
Right.
It's brand new, but it's not a lead, it's a contact that has some classification as a lead, but it doesn't go into this bucket of leads, you know.
Sure.
And that's very B2B, and you know, and this is the other challenge that, you know, that I see a lot in Latin America. And you know this, you know, I cannot go and buy a marketing automation for B2B, or buy a marketing automation for B2C, or for brand number one, a brand number two, because, you know, en Latinoamérica no tienen todos los presupuestos que tenemos en Estados Unidos para comprar 4 marketos o 4 whatever, you know? Entonces, pues, tienes que meter todo junto.
Yes.
¿Entiendes? O sea, un modelo con business units y todo ese tipo de cosas. Y bueno, por eso es que ahora, pues, trabajando en conjunto el Marketing Automation y el CRM, pues, así como está, tiene que estar funcionando, ¿no? De ese punto de vista, ¿no? ¿Cómo tú ves eso ahora con Sugar?
Well, so before I answer that question, let me rewind, because you're absolutely right. Like, in times past, the identification of, you know, lead, prospect, so on and so forth was very muddy. You know, unless that same individual is consuming your marketing content in a cookie browser that is cookied and ID'd with particular, you know, identifier email address associated to a particular ID string inside of CRM. All of that is clean. We know that, you know, Jesús Hoyos with Jesus.hoyos at solvisconsulting.com. I gave everybody your email address. I think they already have it, but the system knows you and knows that cookie placed in browser, so on and so forth, and that's clean. But it gets a little more dirty when Jesús Hoyos uses a different browser and starts consuming data, right? Or uses mobile, or uses you know, iPad, etc.
The cookie doesn't travel with me.
Right, the cookie is not in your back pocket. Doesn't travel with you. You know, having everything now inside one-stop shop, all of the data, all cohesive, has now manners and mechanisms which we can identify you, right? We, with either the email address, unique identifier, so on and so forth. But I say that to say the issues we had with identification, where it's just standalone, connected to, bring whatever CRM you want, right? Is significantly cleaner now with everything all in one. We can identify Jesús Hoyos that is a client in our system, consuming our marketing data, our marketing collateral, etc., for whatever reason. So certain benefits. So what about everything? You know, Sugar is now a player in this game. CRM, they now have a marketing automation platform, right? Those that are watching and know, you know, Sugar acquired in times past Sales Fusion. It's now Sugar Market, right? Awesome, perfect. And so now, particularly and selfishly for me in the Latin American market, for what you said, the organization's not going to go out and buy, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8 instances of a marketing automation platform, and that resonates and rings true even more so in that mid-market segment, right? where the marketing dollar is stretched. Now we start bringing in things in times of pandemic and economic issues, etc. But still the want, need, desire of the Latin American technology business to business buyer to digitize and ensure that they are keeping up to speed, if not keeping up with the Joneses, or far surpassing the Joneses as far as technology for their organization. They see a one-stop shop, Sugar CRM, inclusive of marketing automation by way of Sugar Market, as the way to go. The more we can yell and scream about that, obviously the better, right? And again, stream of consciousness, but I hope I answered a couple points of your question.
No, I mean, that's exactly the point. I mean, and you know, let's not just focus on mid-market, you know, the enterprise level.
Right.
You know, so in Latin America, you know, again, you know, you might be multinational in the States and Europe, but when you transfer, you know, that budget into Latin America, you know, then you have to figure out how to maximize it. And, you know, do I need to have another instance for that marketing automation? You know, and we can talk about, the different options that you have out there, workspaces or business units, that's fine. But at the very end, it comes down to dollars, when you buy the technology, Now, saying that, what I like to do, to focus a little bit here is that having the data that you have in the Sales Cloud.
Yep.
Okay. Having the data that you have on how you call it, on the service side, and then having the data, whatever data that you have for CPQ or back office, that you have billing data, whatever that you have, all that data is rich data that you can use to push to the marketing automation functionality. And then, probably the word market automation is not the proper one. It's more engagement management, because then, tú lo puedes utilizar para hacer correos electrónicos de inbound, de outbound, SMS, push, o sea, todos los canales digitales en un solo lugar, ¿entiendes? Entonces tú tienes que decir, tengo que comprar el marketing automation o tengo que comprar el outbound marketing, ¿ok? O sea, esas cosas pues impactan, ¿no? En el marketing dólar, ¿no? Y para poner esto en perspectiva, o sea, eso se trabaja tradicionalmente con estos objetos, estos módulos separados, donde tú tienes un custom object en el CRM, ¿ok? Y ese custom object, pues tú lo replicas en el marketing automation o lo llevas a tu marketing cloud o outbound marketing para replicar los datos y empezar a hacer otras cosas. No están en sync, no tienen los mismos datos. O sea, si todo eso ahora está, no solamente es accounts, o sea, cuentas, accounts, activities y todos los datos relacionados a los custom objects y los datos digitales, then you have all your small data right there, and easy to execute, and be able to keep it simple. Why do I have to wait for an integration or a connector when I can have it there? Again, esto no es perfecto para todo el mundo. O sea, estos son, pues, yo creo que es ideal para el mercado, ¿no? Y eso, pues, va a impactar, pues, todos estos ecosistemas, ¿no? Y Brandon, I always have this analogy. When for what I've seen the last 3 or 4 years, working with companies that are truly, working together. We're talking, they're buying, one platform. Okay, in this case, SugarCRM. Okay, is that whenever you have something that works together, you're going to use probably 20-30% of the functionality. When you buy stuff that is separated and you have to integrate, you're going to use 10-15%. So the probability that you're going to use a lot more of the functionality because it's simpler, it works together. It's the same data model, all that stuff working together, you can, it's simple. You can use more of the platform versus it's separated, different groups. You do your stuff, I do my stuff, marketing operation doesn't talk to sales operation because when they're truly integrated and in seamless and you have, tienes el mismo funnel de ventas, o sea, el funnel de adquisición del cliente, desde que es visitante hasta que tú haces onboarding, es el mismo para todo el mundo. Marketing o ventas, no importa. O sea, no tienes el marketing funnel y no tienes el sales pipeline, todo separado. Cuando eso está todo junto, that's when you get the base of everything. That's how do you see it?
The ultimate energy, the ultimate synergy, right? And you touched on something in your explanation previous, right? A little bit. Like historically, marketing, and now we're going pretty far back. Marketing automation was just for that, right? Like marketing, somebody raises their hand and shows a heightened level of interest. All of this behavior and engagement is attached to a particular lead score. Lead score gets to a certain level. It passes over for immediate engagement by BDR, maybe even an AE, depending on the organization. Okay, fine. And marketing automation at that point has that was its duty, its job up to that point. And then it evolved, and we're still talking, a good chunk of time ago, it evolved to be like, well, wait a minute, there is not only the front side of the, early on in the sales cycle, right? Early on in the marketing back and forth. Then there's BDR, sales professional engagement, and marketing automation still working, right? Based on, again, behavior and engagement of the prospect at this time. And then even after the sales closed, right? Marketing automation's used for the onboarding process, ongoing customer satisfaction surveys, referrals, recommendations, so on and so forth. And even more complex beyond that, like the in-depth onboarding cycle. And then even after a point of, we have a very happy client based on, again, behavior and engagement and all of the boxes checked in this client journey and life cycle. And we're still using marketing automation to touch this client ongoing, okay, fine. So having that separate, obviously we weren't seeing all of the behavior and engagement. Maybe certain things were coming into CRM. BDR sales professionals overwhelmed with information from the marketing side, of course, because they're looking for to create more opportunities. Maybe the training, individuals responsible for training, maybe onboarding CSMs at that point weren't necessarily connected to all of that data. They certainly are now. Beyond that, account management, huge. Marketing automation, a huge asset. Having it all, again, to add exclamation point to what you said, having all of that, everybody now is in tune with what is going on vis-a-vis the marketing automation happening in parallel with everything going on with this prospect, this buyer in a particular sales cycle, to this client that is has just onboarded, to immediately post onboarding for a period of time, and ongoing happy, or dare I say pissed off client. We're seeing that as well. So everybody's speaking the same language with the same information.
So let me ask you this: two questions based on that. Do you ever will see in the industry that whenever we think marketing automation, we're going to remove this concept that it's only for B2B, or inbound marketing is only for B2B, because nowadays, we're talking, and this will be probably the second part of the question, because we have what is called account-based marketing.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and a lot of people think, in the B2B perspective, of course, it's account-based marketing. Okay, it has to be like that. But at the other token, if you're implementing marketing automation because you're B2C, meaning that you're selling cars, you're selling houses, you're selling financial products, it's a sales cycle that requires making a decision. A lot of those decisions, and listen, sometimes you require your family to make a decision when you go into Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So when you're gonna buy something, you're always asking somebody else for advice. Your wife, your kids, your neighbor. You have a conversation. Should I buy this? Should I buy that? So everything. When you try to sell, reviews on that kind of stuff, you still need to collect that data. And for me, one of the problems that I have with the industry that we put that in a bucket. No, B2C has to be for e-commerce. Okay, and you don't have all these there's a couple out there marketing automation tools that are for retail and specific to focus on that, but then we still focus. You cannot do inbound marketing for B2B if you don't have account-based marketing, and I'm talking from the perspective of the long term, having all that data internally, and then let me add a third part to that. B2C versus B2B, but pricing, so if you buy, the CRM and the marketing automation, they have different pricing structures. You have the number of emails that might go out, or the number of people that have in the database, and the users are free. But when you go to CRM, it's not by contacts, it's by number of users.
Right.
Eso es, tacho, como dicen en Puerto Rico, un sancocho ahí, no, tú no sabes lo que está allá adentro, ¿no? ¿Entiendes? Entonces, si te sabe salado, te lo tienes que comer, pero no, o sea, eso va a cambiar. O sea, yo creo que, o sea, y yo me acuerdo años atrás, hablando pues con los ejecutivos, estaba Paul Greenberg, estaba Stevankowski y todo, estamos pues en uno de estos CRM Conference, ¿no? Y hablamos en aquel tiempo, oye, cuando todo esto se fusione, ¿cómo va a funcionar el precio, no? Usage based, o sea,
number of contacts, number of emails,
how that's going to work, ¿no? Porque ponte a pensar, ese es el precio que tienes por los Amazon, los Azure, o sea, en la nube, ¿no? In the cloud, ¿no? It's by consumption, ¿no? So, y ahora con la pandemia, ¿cómo tú ves todo eso? Porque esto es un sancocho.
Yeah, you know, well, you've been in this business significantly longer than I have. I've been in this business long enough to know, you know, the pricing schematic and landscape continues to evolve and change. I mean, particularly in Latin America. Well, like, look, many a conversation. B2B for us obviously is kind of the tip of the spear, right? But we come into contact with a good chunk of B2C organizations, right? And certainly, you know, CRM is part of that conversation. Marketing automation is part of that conversation. The examples we've given with Amazon, with, you know, levels of e-commerce, like you know, I did a good chunk of representing Magento during my time at Adobe. There is a level of automation, obviously, inside of e-commerce platforms, right? I mean, that's you know, somewhat obvious to us all on this presentation. The pricing of which, when an organization comes to the table with millions upon millions of contacts in a database, right? Pricing for marketing automation, quote unquote, can be somewhat astronomical, or depending on how many emails they want to sell, and those conversations then become specific to what the organization is attempting to accomplish, you know, month in, quarter in, you know, based on a year, etc. There is still a very, very active buyer journey, like you mentioned. Households are making the decision. How do we then, in marketing automation, say, all right, the household becomes the account, and how do we identify the household? You know, in my case, myself, my wife, and my two kids that are looking at a particular product that maybe the household is wanting to buy, and all four of us have some level of input on that decision, right?
Listen, even buying coffee. It's a family decision. Okay. Papi, no me compraste el café que no me gusta. ¿Qué pasó?
No. There's, I'm sure, you know, people are chuckling and enjoying that laugh, because, you know, I don't think that's specific to you, because I laugh because the same thing here. Who bought this particular, you know, this particular coffee? I will not drink that. I am drinking this, that, or the other. But yeah, you know, we laugh at a decision like coffee, but take that up to you know, to a something else, right? And then you have things like you know, a household shopping for university, right? Or these homeowners insurance, or vehicle insurance, or, you know, those particular things where marketing automation does and you know, really does have a play in longer term considered purchase. Well, I mean,
right? And now with COVID, you know, when you try to make a decision where you're going to buy next, or where you're going to have your vacation, you know, are you going to buy from the supermarket, or you're going to buy from Amazon? You know, all that now becomes a family decision.
Yeah.
You know, a household decision, a business decision. You know, and all that needs to be part of the process. You know, especially now with healthcare. You know, telemedicina, o sea, todas esas cosas are going to be a big impact, no? Of people making decisions, and that's going to impact the, you know, how, you know, you guys, the vendors, you know, trying to figure out how to price this, you know, and how to bundle all together to make sure that is effective money-wise for the Latin market.
Well, and so let me touch on this, because that brings up, and you mentioned this previous, and I don't think I addressed it, but let me speak to it now. SugarCRM is completely vested and invested in the future of the Latin American market, right? Conversations that I had prior to the beginning of my adventure here with Sugar, like, listen, if Sugar is all in it to win it in LATAM, then I want to be part of that. Where do I sign, sir and ma'am? I'm in. If it's just to check the box, like, hey, we're in Latin America, because look, you and I have a great amount of experience in that region, and there's organizations that just check the box. Yeah, we've got LATAM coverage, and away we go. So vested and invested into further growth in the region. And that means, how do we custom tailor, number one, the solution, custom tailor, number two, the pricing to meet the specific need, recognizing that we are in times of pandemic and things are not the normal, right? Like the menu with the prices, there is that, but there is, again, the situation that we're dealt with. We want to continue doing business. We're, assisting many a client in the Latin American region to digitize when they haven't been able to digitize because of blockers like maybe, price, immaturity of the marketing team, immaturity of the team underneath the CIO, CTO. We're seeing, again, lots of that in the mid-market, not so much enterprise, but that in the mid-market. So vested and invested in future growth. And I'm completely fortunate and somewhat lucky to be part of this team in doing that.
Perfect. So we have like 10 more minutes, Brandon. From the product perspective, and I know it's been already like 4 weeks, SugarCRM is becoming an ecosystem. SugarCRM is no longer open source. It's a ecosystem. You have your marketplace. You have a distribution of bars. You guys are growing in the region. You guys are investing in Node.io to look into the small data in the system with the time capsule, so I can look back and understand that without sending the data out into the CDPs or the BIs, all that stuff.
Right.
What in the region, and I know you're in mid market, and that's for me it's a illusion because you can have an enterprise using you guys,
and we do.
Yeah, we do. There's plenty of those examples out there. So and knowing that you have this background for marketing automation, is that a big push now? Focusing, in the whole. Yeah, sure. We do sales, we do service, and we do market, but we can do all this together. Are you looking into, for promoting, industries or the customer 360 view of the customer? What's next? How do you see Sugar in the region?
Yes, and certainly, right? The one-stop shop the ecosystem is certainly a focus for us in the region, right? I mean, when we brag about ease of use of the Sugar platform, of SugarCRM, we do and will continue to brag about the ease of use of the entire ecosystem, right? Which I think the benefits the Latin American region, whether it's a very mature, savvy marketing, sales, technology shop inside a mid-market or enterprise client, ease of use, one-stop shop. We will continue to beat that drum and yell and scream from a mountaintop about that. Look for growth and development on our side, platform-wise, moving in that direction. More of a focus on that, on those pieces. I come from the marketing automation side, so I'm a little biased there, right?
No, un poquito, no bastante.
just a little bit. But again, when we were having marketing automation conversations, you can't have a marketing audit. They're few and far between. a standalone marketing automation conversation without, CRM coming up in, the first, less than 5 minutes of the conversation. So now, I certainly applaud Sugar for the creation of this ecosystem. Look for bigger, better, greater things to transpire. And, again, like, look, other organizations doing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, in Latin America, so for what I've seen, right before the pandemic, and now, and we're in the second, the third wave, and we're all being affected directly or indirectly, and for what I've seen for my customers with Solvis, and at the same time, advising, vendors and talking to others through CX2 advisory, I find that, companies are looking simplicity. Okay, so they want to avoid integration points. They want to get clarity and transparency from the data. Okay, they don't want to say, oh, do I have to pay more for this, more for that? Do I need to go to the marketplace and download this in order to do X? These are the CMOs. These are the directors and managers who need to execute, because right now the focus is, and I don't care if we call it, we have a focus. We got to do digital transformation and innovation. The focus is, let's survive. I need to sell more.
Right.
Right. I need to sell more. And especially what is going on today, this week and the last week, and eventually, hopefully won't continue again with Colombia, and what's going on in Brazil, in Latin America, we always trying to survive. We always trying to innovate because we're trying to survive. It's part of the necessity that we have, and you see this trend right now in Latin America. If you see, there's a bunch of companies in Latin America, closing the last mile for e-commerce. There is a bunch of companies who have now the business model. I want to get closer to you. There's a bunch of fintechs, unicorns everywhere. Mercado Libre is growing. Justo, Yalo, there's, I don't know how many fintechs we have.
Yeah.
So that's part of that brings the simplicity of having the stuff connected to be able to sell more. Now, of course, I got to do customer service. I got to do, all the customer experience. I got to know the customer. I got to do the 360. Of course, I need to do digital transformation. But there's a priority of things that people are looking, give me simplicity. I don't want to buy all this stuff.
Right.
Give me, if I buy all this stuff, make sure it's simple. If it's not, give me one or two things that are simple, or give me one that is simple. But they want simplicity. That's what they're looking for. Simplicity in pricing, simplicity in implementation. That's what I see the market is going, from that point of view. So and I think it's critical, I think that's critical. So if you guys are going that way, I'm going to be watching you guys.
Yeah. So to confirm and echo. So again, this is the tail end of my 4th week at my adventure here at CRM, right? And fortunately or unfortunately, mostly fortunately, hit the ground running, right? Where I'm involved in conversations with valued partners throughout the region and prospects that are coming to the table with, like, look, we have all of this. And the bottom line is, given the situation that's going on, pandemic, et cetera, we can't afford all of it. We need to do it. And we need to do it. This is a must-have. This is a must-have. Oh, this is a nice-to-have. And we've had it for so long. And but we can do without it right now because of where we are, right? And being involved in these conversations and seeing a consolidation, dare I say, downsizing of a MarTech stack in an effort to still execute on the same core, for the most part, objectives of time past, time current, and hopefully to get through the pandemic, right? And cost in most cases in these particular situations, obviously, we're able to do it at a lesser cost of what they're paying. And again, your consultancy has probably been in many a conversation with a struggling organization. Like, look, we've had to shutter locations. We've had to close offices and lay off countless amounts of people, but we still have this core function of the business that we need to do. Show us, Sugar, how to do a lot of this core for less amount of money. And in a good number of cases, thanks to creativity on the partner side, thanks to creativity inside of Sugar, we're able to execute on it. So,
perfect. So, Brandon, how people find you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're going to broadcast my email address first, Brandon.Contreras at SugarCRM.com. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Email address, Brandon.Contreras at SugarCRM.com. My
LinkedIn, no?
And also LinkedIn, obviously. And you have this on your LinkedIn. You'll have it on your Instagram. I mean, look, the outpouring of support in the LATAM network has been amazing. When people saw my LinkedIn, that it was updated that I'm over here at Sugar and head of the region. The support has been great. The applause, the congrats, etc. Obviously my thanks to Sugar. I feel very fortunate to be in this role and great things are happening. So LinkedIn, email, la oficina está bien abierta. Estoy aquí para ayudar. I have an amazing team in LATAM that doing very well and expecting great things.
Actually, at the moment that you pop up on my LinkedIn, you say, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
so that's why I reached out to you. I talk Elena, who Macia, who helps me with coordinating all this behind the scenes.
Look at this.
So she said, contact Brandon. I need to bring him. Me tengo que tomar un café con Brandon.
Por supuesto, claro.
So
gracias por el mensaje and thank your Elena and the outreach and look, we go back a good stretch and I was when I saw this I'm like, yeah, let's have this conversation and catch up.
Excelente. Pues para los que nos estuvieron escuchando, pues estuvimos hablando aquí qué significa todo esto de CRM y Marketing Automation, desde industria hasta funcionalidad. Brandon, pues el nuevo Head of Latin America en SugarCRM, pues ya saben, lo pueden conseguir en LinkedIn, y la idea es pues que lo conocieran y supieran el background que él tiene de Marketing Automation, que es muy interesante. Y bueno, para los que nos están escuchando primera vez, pues este es Jesús Hoyos de CRM Latinoamérica con CX2 Advisory. Ya saben, esto está en LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, y luego está en Instagram y en los podcasts. La semana que viene, bueno, les quiero comentar que ya tanto para este mes y junio ya tengo la agenda llena para Tomando Café. Hay mucha gente que quiere venir a tomar café conmigo, eso está bueno. ¿Ok? Y luego, pues, conversaciones de CRM, que lo tengo, pues, todos los martes, ¿no? Así que, Brandon, thank you so much for joining. Don't go. ¿Ok? Hasta la próxima.
Gracias a ti, gracias a todos.
Excelente. Pórtense bien, ¿ok? Síganse cuidándose.